The Kethany people had been sending messages into space for 300 years. Their home planet Veltar was dying. Strange metal creatures called Devourers were eating their world from the inside out. These machines moved like giant metal worms through the ground, turning everything they touched into poison. Kirith stood at her window watching another tall building fall down. She was an important leader of her people, but she felt helpless. Her skin used to glow bright blue like all Kethany, but now it was pale and weak. Her people were getting sick from the poison spreading through their world. The Kethany had asked every powerful alien race in the galaxy for help. They sent messages to the wise Altarians who lived for thousands of years. They begged the mighty Zephyrian Empire with their huge war fleets. They even asked the Federation of Minds, who were known for helping others. All of them said nice words. The Altarians sent back beautiful poems about how sorry they felt. The Zephyrians explained that it was too dangerous to fight the Devourers. The Federation said they would remember the Kethany people in their history books after they were all dead. Nobody sent ships. Nobody sent soldiers. Nobody came to help. Kirith felt angry and sad at the same time. These great alien civilizations talked about peace and wisdom, but when real people needed help, they just sent pretty words. The Devourers kept digging deeper into Veltar every day. Soon there would be nothing left of her world or her people. The Kethany children stopped singing their traditional songs. The adults whispered instead of talking normally. Everyone knew they were going to die, and the galaxy's most powerful races were just going to watch it happen. Then something strange happened. A message came from the outer edge of the galaxy, from a place most aliens never thought about. The message was rough and hard to understand. The words were simple and direct, not fancy like the other aliens used. "We got your call for help. We are coming. Stay strong." The message was signed with a name Kirith had never heard before. Humanity, Planet Earth. Kirith looked up this humanity in the galactic database. What she found surprised her. Humans were a very young race. They had only been traveling in space for a few hundred years. Most alien races were thousands or millions of years old. Humans were like babies compared to them. The database said humans were primitive and dangerous. They fought wars with each other and had almost destroyed their own planet several times. Their technology was far behind everyone else. Their ships were slow and their weapons were weak. The file was marked minor threat, ignore, but they were coming to help when nobody else would. Kirith shared the message with the other Kethany leaders. Some of them were happy that someone finally answered their call. Others were worried. If humans were so primitive and weak, how could they fight the Devourers, when mighty races like the Zephyrians were afraid to try? "Maybe they don't understand how dangerous this is," said Elder Mordok, his old voice shaking. "Maybe we should tell them not to come. They will just die with us." But Kirith felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. Someone out there had heard their cry for help and decided to act. It did not matter if they were strong or weak, advanced or primitive. What mattered was that they cared enough to try. She sent a message back to Earth. "Thank you for answering. But you should know the Devourers are very dangerous. Many will die if you come here. Are you sure you want to do this?" The human response came back quickly. It was even simpler than the first message. "Yes, help is coming." Kirith wondered what kind of people these humans were. Every other race in the galaxy had calculated the risks and decided it was not worth it. They had computer models and wise counsels and careful plans. They all came to the same conclusion. The Kethany could not be saved, but these young humans from the edge of space had not spent time calculating. They had just said yes. As days passed, more messages came from human ships. They were coming from all directions, gathering from across their small territory. Their messages were always short and direct. 40 ships, leaving Mars colony, mining, fleet joining rescue mission. Colony ship, New horizon, changing course to help. The Cathini started to feel something they had almost forgotten, not just hope, but excitement. Someone was actually coming to help them. Someone cared enough to risk everything for strangers they had never met. In the distance, another building collapsed as the Devourers continued their slow destruction of Veltar. But, for the first time in 300 years, the Cathani were not facing the end alone. Help was coming from the stars, and it had a human face. Captain June watched through the front window of her ship as space twisted and bent around them. The UES Retribution was the biggest ship in the human fleet, but even she felt small compared to what they were about to face. Behind her ship, 6 other human vessels dropped out of hyperspace into the Veltar system. It was not a pretty sight. The human fleet looked like a collection of spare parts held together with hope. There were military destroyers next to old cargo ships with guns bolted onto their sides. Colony ships that should have been carrying families to new worlds were instead packed with soldiers and weapons. Even the ancient generation ship New Horizon had joined them, its old hull covered with every gun the humans could find. June had been a cargo captain just 6 months ago, moving supplies between Earth colonies. Now she was leading humanity's first major space battle. She was scared, but she was also angry. The galaxy's most powerful races had ships that could destroy planets, but they were too afraid or too proud to help people who were dying. The communications officer, a young man named Tay, spoke up from his station. "Captain, we're getting a message from the planet. It's the Cathani. Put it through," June ordered. The alien voice came through the speakers, high and musical, but filled with panic. "Human ships, you must leave immediately. The Devourers have millions of units. Your small fleet cannot win. Why did you even come here? We have never met your people. We have never traded with you. We are nothing to each other." June picked up the microphone. She thought about all the fancy words the other alien races had used when they refused to help. She thought about the pretty speeches about wisdom and balance. Then she said the only thing that made sense to her. "We came because no one else did." Her words went out across all radio frequencies. Every Cathani on the dying planet heard them. Every human in the fleet heard them too. It was simple and true, and it said everything about why they were there. Lieutenant Min, the weapons officer, pointed at her screen. "Captain, sensors are picking up movement. The Devourers are coming." June looked at the display and felt her heart sink. The enemy ships were huge, each one the size of a city building. They moved through space like silver fish, their metal surfaces rippling with cutting beams and energy weapons. There were hundreds of them, and more were coming from inside the planet. The Devourers had been destroying civilizations for millions of years. Their technology was older and more advanced than anything humans had ever seen. Each enemy ship was stronger than 10 human ships. Their shields could stop any weapon, and their hulls could repair themselves if damaged, but the had never fought humans before. "All ships," June announced over the fleet communication system. "Remember why we're here. These metal monsters think they can eat an entire world while the galaxy watches and does nothing. They're about to learn that humans don't watch. We fight." The human ships spread out in a pattern that would have confused any military academy. They did not form neat lines like proper space fleets. Instead, they moved like a pack of wild animals, each ship ready to attack from a different direction. The first Devourer ship fired its main weapon at the destroyer Soul. The beam was powerful enough to cut the human ship in half, but Captain Park, commanding the Soul, had already moved his ship behind an asteroid. The beam hit rock instead of metal. "All ships, attack pattern Alpha," June shouted. "Hit them fast and hard." What happened next had never been seen in galactic warfare before. The human ships did not try to fight fair. The cargo ship Busan, commanded by Captain Lee, flew straight at a Devourer cruiser and rammed it at full speed. The crew had already evacuated to nearby ships, using escape pods. But Lee stayed behind to guide the ship into the enemy. The collision destroyed both ships, but it also proved something important. Devourer shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not physical impacts. The other human captains learned this lesson quickly. The mining ship Gwangju, under Captain Kim, used its rock-cutting tools as weapons. The colony transport Daegu fired its emergency rockets like missiles. Even the old New Horizon joined the fight, its ancient engines pushing it toward the biggest devourer ship while its passengers prepared to board. Enemy vessels with mining tools and farming equipment down on the planet Veltar. The Cathani watched the battle in amazement. These primitive humans with their crude ships were actually hurting the devourers. They fought with a fury that the ancient machines had never encountered. When the human destroyer Inshin lost its engines, its captain did not surrender. Instead, he set the ship's reactor to explode and guided it into 3 enemy ships. When Marine Sergeant Song found herself trapped on a damaged devourer vessel, she held a corridor by herself for 6 hours, singing old Korean folk songs while fighting with a broken pipe. The devourers began to pull back. Not because they were losing, but because they were confused. These humans fought harder when they were losing. They became more dangerous when they were desperate. They acted like the survival of strangers was their own personal responsibility in their ancient data files. The devourers tried to understand this new enemy, but they could not. They had fought thousands of species, but never one that seemed to take the concept of extinction as a personal insult. The battle was just beginning, but already the galaxy was about to learn something new about the young race from Earth. Admiral Hannah stood on the bridge of the carrier ship Indomitable, watching the biggest space battle humanity had ever fought. The devourer machines were coming at them like a silver wave of death. Each enemy ship was 3 times bigger than her largest vessel, and their weapons could punch holes through asteroids. But Hannah was not thinking about how outgunned they were. She was thinking about her daughter back on Earth, and about the Cathini children hiding in caves on the dying planet below. Someone had to stand between the innocent and the monsters, even if the odds were impossible. All human ships, listen to me, Hannah spoke into her communication device. Our ancestors fought at places called the Alamo and Thermopylae. They were outnumbered then too, but they never backed down when people needed protecting. Today we fight for strangers who became family the moment they asked for help. The human fleet moved forward, but not in the neat formations that military schools taught. They scattered like a swarm of angry bees, each ship captain making their own decisions about how to hurt the enemy. Captain Wu, in the destroyer, Pohang saw a devourer ship charging its main weapon to fire at the planet. He could have attacked from a safe distance, but that would take too long. Instead, he flew his ship straight at the enemy, ramming his destroyer into the devourer's weapon system. The explosion destroyed both ships, but it saved a Cathani city from being vaporized. The ancient colony ship New Horizon was too old and slow to fight normally, but Captain Nam found another way. He flew the massive ship straight into the biggest devourer vessel, and the ship's 10,000 passengers became boarding parties. They fought through the enemy ship's corridors using mining tools, kitchen knives, and anything else they could find. Grandmother Park, who was supposed to be retired and enjoying her garden, found herself fighting metal robots with a welding torch. These machines think they can eat children, she muttered, cutting through a devourer repair unit. I raised 5 kids through the colony wars. A few metal bugs don't scare me. Down on the planet's surface, Marine Sergeant Song had been shot down when her transport was hit. She found herself alone in a damaged devourer machine, surrounded by repair robots, trying to fix the damage her ship had caused. She only had a broken rifle and an emergency flare, but she held the corridor for 6 hours. While she fought, she sang old songs her grandmother had taught her. The Cathani hiding nearby heard her voice echoing through the metal tunnels. and they started singing too. Their songs mixed together, human and alien voices joining in harmony while the battle raged around them. The Devourers had conquered thousands of worlds, but they had never seen anything like this. Most species fought logically, trying to minimize losses and maximize advantages. When they started losing, they retreated to fight another day. Humans did the opposite. The more desperate the situation became, the harder they fought. When the destroyer Mokpo lost its engines and weapons, its captain didn't call for rescue. Instead, he manually overloaded the ship's reactor and flew it into 3 enemy vessels, taking them all down together. The cargo ship Yosu was filled with medical supplies meant for the Cathini refugees. When Devourer fighters attacked it, Captain Choi could have dropped the supplies and run. Instead, she used the medical ship like a battering ram, protecting the supplies even as her ship was torn apart around her. These humans are broken. One Devourer unit transmitted to its command ship. They fight like their own survival doesn't matter. They risk everything for creatures they've never met. This behavior has no logical purpose. But the Cathani, watching from their dying world, understood perfectly. Elder Kirith, weak from the poison in her planet's air, managed to send a message to the human fleet. We see what you are doing for us. We will remember this forever. But please, save yourselves. Don't die for strangers. Admiral Hannah's response was broadcast across all frequencies so every human and Cathani could hear it. You're not strangers anymore. You became our family the moment you asked for help. And humans don't abandon family. The battle turned when the humans learned that Devourer shields couldn't stop solid objects, only energy weapons. Captain Chen in the mining ship Andong started firing chunks of metal asteroid at enemy ships. The rocks punched right through their advanced shields like bullets through paper. Other human ships copied the tactic. Soon the space around Veltar was filled with rocks, metal scraps, and pieces of broken ships, all flying at Devourer vessels. The ancient machines found their million-year-old technology useless against humanity's most primitive weapon. Throwing rocks really, really hard, the Devourers began to retreat, but not because they were beaten. They were retreating because they were confused and afraid. In millions of years of conquest, they had never met a species that fought harder when losing, that seemed to take the extinction of strangers as a personal insult. As the silver ships pulled back from Veltar, the surviving humans didn't celebrate. They immediately started rescue operations, pulling Cathani survivors from the poisoned cities and setting up medical stations. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans brought fire to a fight, it wasn't just the fire of destruction. It was also the fire of hope, warming everyone who had been left out in the cold. 10 days after the battle, something happened that surprised everyone in the galaxy. The humans did not just pack up and leave after winning. Instead, they stayed to help fix what the Devourers had broken. Captain June walked through the damaged streets of Veltar's capital city, with Elder Kirith beside her. The Cathani leader's skin was starting to glow blue again, now that human medical teams were cleaning the poison from the air and water. Your people don't have to do this, Kirith said, watching human engineers work alongside Cathini builders to repair a collapsed hospital. You already saved us. You could go home now. June shook her head. Saving you was just the first step. Now we help you get back on your feet. That's what family does. The word family still felt strange to Kirat H. Her people had been alone in the galaxy for so long that they had forgotten what it felt like to have someone care about them. But everywhere she looked, she saw humans and Cathani working together like old friends. Dr. Min from the human medical ship was teaching Cathani healers how to use human medicine to help the sick children. Engineer Park was learning how to grow crystal buildings the way the Cathini did, so they could rebuild their cities stronger than before. Even the human soldiers were helping, using their weapons to blast away the metal chunks the Devourers had left behind. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about this friendship. A week later, a sleek silver ship arrived in the Veltar system. It carried diplomats from the Altarian Council, one of the most powerful and ancient races in the galaxy. The Altarians were tall, thin beings who lived for thousands of years and thought they knew everything. Ambassador Zelthor met with Captain June and Elder Kirith in the newly repaired council chamber. His voice was smooth and cold, like expensive metal. Captain June, we must discuss proper protocols for first contact situations. There are rules about how new species should be introduced to galactic society. Your actions, while enthusiastic have disrupted the established order. June looked at the alien diplomat for a long moment. Around them, she could hear the sounds of construction as humans and Cathani worked together to rebuild the city. Children were laughing outside, playing games that mixed human and Cathani traditions. What protocols? June asked. The protocols that say we should watch people die while filling out paperwork. The protocols that let machines eat entire worlds while everyone debates in committee. Zelthor's expression did not change. The galaxy has ordered because we follow procedures. We calculate risks and benefits. We consider long-term consequences. What you call helping could destabilize entire sectors. Good, June said simply. If your order means letting innocent people die, then it needs to be destabilized. Her words spread quickly through the galactic communication networks. Within days, beings on 100 worlds heard what the human captain had said. Some were shocked that anyone would talk to the mighty Altarians that way. Others were excited that someone finally had. The real test came 2 months later. The Zephyrian Empire, another major galactic power, decided to teach these upstart humans a lesson. They had been bullying smaller worlds for centuries, taking what they wanted and crushing anyone who complained. A Zephyrian war fleet attacked a human supply convoy near the Cathani border. The Empire's ships were massive and powerful, filled with warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds. They expected to find easy prey, primitive human ships with weak weapons and scared crews. Instead, they found that the convoy was bait. Captain Kim had been flying supply runs for 20 years, and she knew how pirates and bullies thought. When the Zephyrian ships attacked, her convoy ships scattered in all directions, just like scared prey should do. But human warships were hiding in the asteroid fields, gas clouds, and behind sensor shadows. They had been waiting for someone to test humanity's resolve. Admiral Hannah's voice came over the communication system. All units, remember, we protect our own, and our own includes anyone who calls for help. The battle was over in 30 minutes. The Zephyrian ships found themselves surrounded by humans who fought like cornered wolves. When the Zephyrian admiral tried to surrender, Captain Kim's response became famous across the galaxy. You can surrender to the families of everyone you've hurt over the years. We're just the delivery service. Word of the battle spread like wildfire through the galactic underworld. Pirates, slavers, and tyrants all received the same message. Humans had drawn a line in space. They would answer distress calls. They would come for the innocent. And they would bring fire to anyone who preyed on the helpless. But the message spread to other kinds of beings too. On forgotten worlds and in dark corners of space, the weak and the oppressed heard that someone new had joined the galaxy. Someone who didn't calculate the cost of doing what was right. Young Cathini warriors started training with human soldiers, learning that sometimes the best weapon wasn't the strongest one, but the one wielded by someone who refused to give up. Cathani engineers worked with human builders, creating new kinds of ships that combined crystal technology with human stubbornness. The galaxy's great powers watched nervously as this partnership grew stronger. They had spent thousands of years building a system where might made right, where the strong ruled and the weak suffered in silence. Now there was a new voice in the darkness, answering every cry for help with the same simple promise: help is coming. And that voice had a human accent, backed by the growing chorus of everyone they had saved. 10 years had passed since the Battle of Eltar, and the galaxy looked very different now. Captain June, her hair now white, but her eyes still sharp, stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching dozens of different alien ships flying together in formation. What had started as a desperate rescue mission had grown into something much bigger. The Terran Doctrine, as the galaxy's leaders called it, had spread like wildfire among the younger races and forgotten worlds. It was a simple idea that scared the powerful. When someone cries for help, you answer. No committees, no calculations, no excuses. Admiral Hannah, now in charge of the growing fleet, received an urgent message from the Outer Rim. The hegemony of suns, a cruel empire that controlled 50 star systems, had decided to wipe out the people simply because they wanted the water world where the fish-like aliens lived. All ships, prepare for jump, Hannah announced. Behind her flagship, the human fleet had grown to include hundreds of vessels from dozens of species. Chthoni crystal ships flew alongside human destroyers. Former pirates who had been converted to the cause piloted cargo ships full of medical supplies. Even some Altarian rebels had joined. Tired of their government's endless debates while people died, the jump to Madani space took 3 days. When they arrived, they found the hegemony's massive war fleet already bombarding the water world from orbit. Millions of Madani were dying in their underwater cities, but the hegemony had made the same mistake everyone else made when fighting humans. They assumed this was about military tactics and superior firepower. They did not understand that to humans, this was personal. Captain Lee in the destroyer Changwon did not wait for orders. She saw hegemony ships killing children in the cities below and flew straight at the nearest enemy battleship. Her ship was tiny compared to the enemy vessel, but she rammed it at full speed while broadcasting on all frequencies. Nobody kills kids on our watch. The battle became a legend that spread across the galaxy. Human ships fought alongside Chthoni crystal vessels and converted pirate ships. When the Madani saw that strangers had come to die for them, they rose up from their underwater cities in small submarines and civilian boats, joining the fight to save their own world. Young Madani named Gulpa piloted a fishing boat loaded with explosives into a hegemony cruiser while singing traditional water songs. An old Chthoni engineer named Mortek used his crystal ship's mining beam to cut through 3 enemy destroyers. Even a former Altarian diplomat, Commander Venkari, led a boarding party onto a hegemony command ship, shouting human curse words she had learned from her new allies. The hegemony retreated after losing half their fleet, but more importantly, they retreated in confusion and fear. These humans and their allies did not fight like civilized beings. They fought like the survival of strangers was their own family emergency. News of the victory reached the Galactic Council within hours. The great powers were no longer dismissing humanity as primitive upstarts. They were genuinely frightened of what this new alliance represented. Ambassador Kirath, her skin now glowing with healthy blue light, stood before the assembled council. Representatives on the neutral world of Nexus Prime. Around her, the greatest civilizations in the galaxy sat in their fancy chairs, trying to maintain their dignity while their carefully constructed order fell apart. You ask why the galaxy grows unstable, Kirith said, her musical voice carrying clearly through the great hall. You ask why the old rules no longer work. Look to your own actions for the answer. Her words were broadcast live across thousands of worlds. Beings who had never heard of the Chthoni before listened as she continued. For millions of years, you have ignored cries for help. You have accepted necessary evils and calculated the cost of compassion, always finding it too expensive. You have watched worlds die while debating proper procedures in comfortable meeting rooms. In the viewing gallery above, Admiral June sat with her mixed crew of humans and aliens. They wore simple uniforms without fancy decorations, but everyone in the hall knew they commanded the most feared fleet in the galaxy. Then came humanity, Kirith continued. A species that never learned to count the cost of doing what is right. They heard our scream in the darkness and came with fire. Not the fire of conquest, but the fire of hope. The Altarian representative, Zeltar, stood to speak. Ambassador Kiret H., you speak of noble intentions, but order must be maintained. Without proper procedures and careful planning, chaos will consume us all. Admiral June stood up in the gallery. Her voice carried easily through the hall without any amplification. We never asked to police the galaxy, she said. We just could not stand the silence when someone screamed for help. If that brings chaos to your order, then your order was built on the wrong foundation. Outside the council building, ships from dozens of species waited in orbit. They were not there as conquerors or threats. They were there as a reminder that the galaxy had changed. The strong could no longer ignore the weak, because someone would always answer the cry for help. In the years that followed, that promise spread to every corner of space. No matter how dark the corner or how forgotten the world, everyone knew that help could come from unexpected places. The cry would be answered, the fire would come, and it would have a human heart, burning bright against the endless cold of space.